Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyofbaking.com. Today we're going to make strawberry bread, which is full of chunks of fresh strawberries. First thing we need to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then you will need a loaf pan, and you need to either butter and flour the pan, or you could just spray it with one of those non-stick vegetable flour sprays that you can buy. And then we're going to use the electric mixer for this. So if you have a stand mixer, use the paddle attachment, or you could just use a hand mixer for this. And you will need a half a cup, that's 113 grams of butter. Have that at room temperature. And you can use either salted or unsalted. I prefer the unsalted because I like the flavor better. And then I'm just going to beat for like a minute or so, just to soften the butter and make it nice, creamy, and smooth. Okay. And just scrape down the side and bottom of your bowl as much as you need to, because you want to make sure all your ingredients are mixed together well. And then next, I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup, which is 150 grams of granulated white sugar. And then I'm going to beat this on medium-high speed until it's really nice and light and fluffy, probably 2-3 minutes. Okay, so this is what you're looking for. We're trying to get some air whipped into the butter and sugar. So, okay, just scrape down again. So now what we're going to do is add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and try to use a pure, better flavor than the imitation ones, and 3 large eggs, and have those at room temperature. And I'm going to add the eggs one at a time, beating well after each one. Now don't worry if your batter looks a little curdled, as you can see here, because we have a lot of liquid there. So it will smooth out once we add our flour. Okay, so now for our dry ingredients. In a separate bowl, I have 2 cups, which is 260 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And to that, I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now, if you use salted butter, I would probably just leave that salt out, and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Now, some people don't like cinnamon, so you could leave it out, or you could reduce that if you want. But if you don't add the cinnamon, your bread won't be as dark colored, because of course the cinnamon does kind of color your batter a darker brown. So just keep that in mind. So just whisk that all together. You want to make sure that that baking soda and baking powder are really mixed into the flour. So that's our dry ingredients. And then we're going to add the flour to our batter in 3 additions, and we're going to alternate that with a half a cup, which is 120 milliliters. You could use either sour cream or a plain yogurt. You could use either full fat or a reduced fat. Now, I wouldn't use one of those fat freaks. You want a little fat in there. And then you will also need 1.5 cups, that's 360 milliliters of fresh strawberries and cut those into, like I dice them in pretty small pieces, because if they're too large, what you may find is they'll sink to the bottom of the bread, which we don't want. So cut them into small chunks. And what you can do, because sometimes this helps keep the strawberries suspended, is just take, like, you know, a couple tablespoons of your flour mixture and just toss the strawberries in that. And that kind of helps them stay in the batter long enough so the batter can set around them. It's a little trick you can try. You can do this in any recipe where you're having a fruit or even nuts and you're worried about them sinking down. Just take a little flour from your recipe and toss it in there. And then you also need a half a cup, 120 milliliters of chopped nuts. Now, you can use whatever type of nut you want. You know, I'm using walnuts today, pecans, almonds, hazelnuts. And if you want to toast them, I often do that. Just put the nuts in your oven, the 350 degree Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius, for like 8-10 minutes, just till they start. You can start to smell the nut, and then take them out, cool them, and then coarsely chop. And I find toasting them really brings out their flavor. So what we're going to do, like I said, we're going to add about a third of our flour and start off on low speed because you don't want that flour coming up in your face. So we're just going to mix that in. And then I'm just going to take half of my sour cream here. I'm using sour cream. But I often use yogurt and find that's just as good. Scrape down here. I really smell the cinnamon in the kitchen. And add the rest of sour cream. Our final bit of flour. Okay. Now, as you can see, the batter's kind of brown, and that's from the ground cinnamon. So if you leave that out, your batter will be just white. So now I'm going to fold in my strawberries by hand. Make sure you get all that flour along with the nuts. Now, if you didn't want nuts, you could just leave the nuts out and maybe add a bit more strawberries if you'd like. So just gently do this. You don't want to get your batter all dyed red here. Squash your strawberries. Okay, it's fairly evenly distributed. Okay, let's take our loaf pan. This is a great way to use up strawberries that are a little past their prime. Maybe you don't want to serve them in a fruit salad, but they're still good. They're just a little soft. And then with the back of a spoon or a spatula or knife, just even this out. Okay. Looks good. I always like to just give it a quick tap just to settle it down. So now into the oven, I would say about an hour. Depends on your oven, but you know it will have risen nicely brown, and a toothpick inserted into the center will come out clean. Okay, our strawberry bread is now done. As you can see, it's a beautiful golden brown color, and it has a nice rise to it. So now what I'm going to do is just let it cool like this on a wire rack for about 10 minutes, and then we'll take it out of the pan. So now we'll remove the bread from the pan. So I use like a flat edge spatula, or you could just use a knife, and then just go along the sides here, just to make sure that the bread isn't sticking to the pan. Okay, and then it's still a little hot, so you need to use your oven mitts. And there we go. Doesn't that look nice? So to cut it, I'll just put it on a cutting board and use a sharp knife. Normally I would let it cool a little more because it's still quite hot, but just so you can see the inside. Isn't that beautiful? You know, all the strawberries. Well, it's kind of breaking apart here. It's still hot. See, isn't that beautiful? As you can see, because we cut the strawberries in small pieces and then toss them in a little flour, they are suspended in the batter. So, you can cover and store this for a few days at room temperature. Or what I often do is like slice the bread up and then freeze it in slices. So then when I want to just have one slice, I can just take that out of the freezer. So until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of JoyOfBaking.com.